Flash, a symbol is a very powerful, reusable type of sprite. The best way to show you this is I'm going to quickly draw a couple of shapes. A square, a circle, and maybe a polygonal type shape. Now by itself, each of these shapes are independent shapes. You have your fill, you have your outlines, and that's all they are. If I want two circles, I can easily copy this and paste another one, right? But that makes it two circles. So the cool thing about Flash is that you don't have to redraw things over and over to have pretty much the same or similar results. So the symbol feature is what kind of allows us to kind of work around certain workflows. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this square, I'm going to convert it into a symbol. I'm going to call it square. I'll put the registration point in the center. That's that little registration point here. And the way that registration point works is that it allows us to kind of do our transformations based on that point. Of course, we also have a transformation point that goes outside of the symbol, which we can modify by moving it like that. Here's our registration point still in the center, but we've modified the transformation point to be here. So now I can do my transformations based on that corner over there. But that is just one of the features that allows us to have when we use symbols, which is kind of backed out of those changes real quick, but we still have a symbol. If I double click on this symbol, I go into edit in place mode. You can see that I am inside of the symbol. It's a movie clip called square. There are three types of symbols, or main types of symbols. There's movie clips, graphic symbols, and buttons. We're only going to concern ourselves with movie clip symbols and graphic symbols for now. And more important of those in terms of Crazy Talk Animator workflow is the movie clip symbol. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what the symbols themselves do. So what I have here is I'm going to go into the library. You can see that in my library I have one symbol. It's a movie clip symbol and it's a square. I'm going to create another one. I'm going to select that circle there, modify, convert to symbol, put that one in the center. I'm going to call that circle. And now I have a circle symbol. Now in my library at any given time I can come out and grab any of these objects and drop them in there. Now notice that now I have three different circles on the stage. Now the thing about these is that even though it's three different circles, it's actually three instances of the very same one circle sprite or circle symbol. So this is the same exact symbol, just copied three times in a way that it's using instances of the very same symbol. So if I were to go into edit in place mode by double clicking on this circle, and if I make a modification to this circle, such as just bending it, notice how all these other instances also get modified. That is because it is the same exact symbol. We're just looking at three different instances. Again, with three instances of the very same exact symbol. So I can double click on this to go into edit in place, modify it, and everything else, everywhere where this symbol appears, it also gets modified because it is exactly the same symbol. Now I've been double clicking on these just to easily go inside and modify the contents, and now I double click outside to exit and go back to my main scene. I can also right click, select edit in place, or I could easily select edit in new window. So I'm going to do that here with this square. I'm going to edit in a new window. So if I double click outside, it doesn't go anywhere. So I just literally have a different window. So in this window, I'm going to modify this a little bit. Then I'm going to go back to my main scene here, my main window, and you can see that this has been modified. If I look at the square symbol inside of the library, I drop it in there, you see that the actual shape of it has been modified. It's the same symbol, just a different instance. So we can have as many instances as we want. Copy, paste, and then paste, and then paste. So we have as many copies of the same symbol as we want. They're all instances of the very same exact thing. So any modification that happens to this one symbol, I'm going to go into this separate window and I'm going to bring that out and just kind of undock it so we can kind of see it side by side against this original one. I'm going to undock this one too, just so we can kind of be able to play with it. So in this window, I have the I'm inside of the instance of I'm inside of the main square shape here, and as I edit it in my main scene, you can see the changes taking place. Okay. So I can edit this any way I want. And these changes are reflected in the actual project because every instance of that symbol will take on the properties of the main parent symbol. So it's only one symbol. Again, it's a really hard concept for a lot of people to grasp at first, but we are looking at basically what's called instances. So different instances of the very same exact symbol. So the reason why Macromedia, the original company that developed Flash, which is now called Adobe Animate, they developed this as a way to keep file sizes down because, you know, it makes sense that if a file is going to be like, you know, 10 kilobytes, you know, you can draw an entire car that keep it under 10 kilobytes by duplicating the different parts, as opposed to having multiple items going on at the same time, just bloating the file size of the final project or final image. So using this methodology, I'm going to get rid of this. Anything that has already been converted into a symbol will always reside on the library. So if I open up the library, you can see that even though I've deleted them off my stage, my circle and my square symbols are still there. Now this is only the surface, okay? We're only touching the surface so far. Let's take a look at this polygonal object here. And right now it's not a symbol. So we're going to convert it into a symbol. And this time I'm going to use the shortcut key F8. That's the F8 function key on your keyboard. F8. We'll give it a name. I'm going to call this wheel. It often helps to give it a movie clip name or a symbol name based on the object that is represented by the actual artwork. Notice also that we have multiple types of symbols. Primary is movie clip, button, and graphic. There's also other types that are not explicitly detailed, such as sound symbols and other things, but we're only going to worry about the ones that are out there in the open, the primary ones, movie clip, button, and graphic symbols. And I'm going to leave the registration point in the center so that off the start, right off the bat, we have that registration and transformation point in the center. So what I'm going to do is that in Flash, I'm just going to create a quick animation, and what I'm going to do is I want to point out my timeline. My timeline right now is composed of a single frame. Now every instance, every symbol itself has its own timeline. So I'm going to double click in here basically to activate the edit in place mode. And in here, inside of this symbol, I still have its own timeline, okay? I'm gonna go down to the 1 second mark here at frame 24. And I'm going to basically create an empty keyframe. Okay, insert blank keyframe by right clicking there. So now there's nothing here. And I'm just gonna create like a box here. All right, just something basic. Okay, this is a shape. I'm not using symbols at all yet. Well, we are using the main symbol, but inside of that symbol, we are still working with just basic shapes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create what's called a shape tween by right clicking in between those two shapes. I'm gonna create a shape tween. And Flash is going to automatically create a transformation between that initial shape and the last one I drew. So it's automatically going to try to guess what happens in order to make that turn into that other symbol. So frame 1 has that polygonal object, and frame 24 has a square that is blue and it has a black very thick outline. So everything in between, Flash itself is going to calculate and try to create that animation for you. So we have something that looks like this. So it's a single animation. So now I'm going to double click outside of this area to bring myself back to the scene. I can also click on this scene because it's basically like a little breadcrumb. I can click there, boom, I'm outside. And notice that we're still looking at a single frame because the main scene in Flash has just one frame, but inside in this symbol itself has 24 frames. Okay, and the thing about movie clip symbols is that they're kind of independent. They do their own thing. So even though the overall movie has one frame, that symbol has 24 frames inside of it, and that's gonna play. That's why it's called a movie clip symbol, because it plays like a movie. So I'm gonna press Control Enter to kind of preview my project, and this is my movie so far. So my movie, it's actually not playing any of these frames. It's stuck at frame 1 because it only has one frame, but because this is an independent movie clip, the contents within that symbol are playing. So those 24 frames are perpetually playing over and over. So that's how that works. And the thing about movie clips is that they are responsive to code, so you can do all sorts of fancy stuff with them. So in here, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm inside of that symbol, and on the very first frame, I'm going to add some action script. So I'm going to select the actions option. I'm just going to call it stop. This is a very easy function, very simple function. I'm just telling it to stop. Okay, this is basically getting into a little bit of coding here. But now, I'm going to go back to the first, that main scene. I'm going to hit Control Enter. And notice that that internal movie is not playing. All right. And that is the purpose, that's the whole point of movie clip symbols. They are responsive to code. You can tell them what to do. They do their own thing also. They play over and over, and you can manipulate them through code. And this is kind of what programmers use to create things like websites and games and stuff. So here, I'm going to create a second type of I'm gonna create another type of symbol. Okay, this is gonna be a square, and I'm gonna change some of the aspects of this. I'm gonna go into Window, Properties, and the Properties panel will show the properties of any item that is currently selected. So right now it's this square shape that's selected. Now it's that movie clip symbol. So you can see that this is a movie clip. It doesn't have an instance name, but it is an instance of the wheel symbol. So here I'm going to go ahead and select this. I just selected the basic shape. That's the blue area. If I select here, I selected just that black stroke. If I select everything, I have the entire shape. The fill is blue, the stroke is black. I can change the style to maybe a hairline thickness, and maybe change the color to you know, just like a shade of like a reddish shade or something. Okay, so having done that, I'm going to take that, select it, and I'm going to convert it into a second type of symbol. Okay, I'm going to convert it to a symbol. I'm going to select button, and here I'm going to call it my button. I'm going to leave the registration in the center. So now this particular symbol, when I select it, you can see in the properties panel it's a button type symbol, and technically I could go in here and change the behavior to movie clip or graphic symbol based on that instance, but I'm just going to leave it alone because that's how I created it. The properties panel also shows us certain things like the position on the stage, where it's located along the x-axis, the y, you know, the width, the height, stuff like that. And you can manipulate all sorts of things. Okay, you got color effects, you got different blending modes and things that you can do. You'll have to experiment with all this stuff. Special filters, you know, glowing bevels and things of that nature. But the important thing is that we are working with a button symbol at this point. And one of the key features of the button symbol is that if you double click inside of it, you'll notice that it only has 4 actual frames or primary frames. You have the first one, which is used for the up state. The second one is the over. The third one is down. And the fourth is your hit region. Okay, so if you were doing like a video game and you have your character and stuff, you want that solid area where you're targeting. Okay, if an object touches this, then it's touching the character. Then you can define that region. Or if it is a button, but you only want people to select a certain part of that button, you can interactively select that. So let's kind of mess around with this button real quick. I'm going to take this shape here, copy it, go to the over state, and I'm just going to create an empty keyframe. Insert blank keyframe. And I'm going to paste this in place. So in the over state, I'm going to adjust the color, and I'm just going to make the color a little bit brighter just to kind of show us let's see here. Just a little bit brighter than the original one, just so it can change. So that's the over state. On down, I'm going to press F7 here. That's the same thing as doing insert blank keyframe. So if I select and press the F7 key, that's a blank keyframe. I can also paste in place. So I'm going to take that orangish color there, reddish color, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Okay, and just for grins, I'm going to go into the hit. Now you don't always have to create this, because by default it'll take on the shape of this of the last frame. So, but if you actually want to specify the hit region, which I'm going to do just so you can see how that works in theory, I'm going to make this shape a little bit smaller. So that this is the only actual clickable region within that button, even though the button itself is bigger. So here's the up, over, down, and hit. So I'm going to exit this button. I'm going to double click outside of it. I'm going to hit Control Enter. All right, so this is the thing about the buttons. Okay, it's basically an interactive movie clip symbol. So here it is. You're looking at it right now in its regular state, and now I'm going to go over it. You can see it change. I get out of it. It goes back to normal. Over, out, and notice that it only really changes. Like right now, I have it over. Right, it hasn't changed. But if I move my mouse over a little bit more, now it's touching that active region, okay, that hit region. So every time my mouse hovers over that hit region, that's when the button knows that you have it, that you have your mouse over it. So we actually were able to declare what region of that button is the actual clickable region. And the reason I'm explaining all this right now is because all this stuff is relevant. You know, you'll have to know this even if you're not going to be using it for Crazy Talk Animator. You're going to have to know this because by knowing how all this stuff works, you'll be able to understand how everything is put together later. So here's my button, right? So this button in Flash, basically all these symbols, they're usually, I mean, they're just symbols right now. I mean, Flash doesn't really know anything of what's going on in here. You have to tell it. So right here we have one instance of this wheel. I'm going to take that, copy it, Control V to paste. I'm going to paste another instance of it. So here I have two movie clip symbols. They're pretty much the same content. It's two instances of that wheel and one button. So now we get into instance names, okay? Instance names is how we target things. So the first one, I'm going to call it wheel 1. All right? The second one, I'm going to call it wheel 2. I'm using the instance name field within the properties panel to give it instance names. Notice that this is an instance of the wheel and this is an instance of the wheel, but each instance now has its own unique name. Okay, and this is going to be very important because that's the way that Crazy Talk works. When Crazy Talk is going to be looking at your files that you create, at your templates that you create, it's going to be looking for instance names, and it's going to be looking for certain instance names that it's going to use to import the body parts for your characters and things. So here's my button. I'm going to call this button 1, and just for grins, I'm going to go in here the actions panel, and I'm going to create a little bit of code. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit. All right, I'm not going to just write some bunch of code from scratch. I'm just going to put in some predefined code here. Let's see here, actions. Let's use an event handler. Mouse click event requires an object to be selected. All right, we're going to select this button. Now technically you could write all this from scratch, but I don't think that's the point here. So now we're just going to create some generic code here based on a snippet. And basically what I'm saying is what it's done, it's created an event handler and an event listener. So the button 1 is the instance name of this button here. Okay, so button 1. So basically what it's doing is that when button 1 shows up on the stage, it's given an event listener. It's being told that when somebody clicks on it, it's going to run this FL mouse click handler 2 function here. Okay, and in here we can put any kind of code we want. All right, we're just going to leave the default code that Flash gave us just so we can see what happens, so you can see the functionality in place. Hit save accidentally. We don't want to save it yet. This is just an experimental file. I'm just going to go in here. Okay, I'm going to hover, click, and as I clicked, it's running my function. Basically, it's tracing out this line of text here that says mouse clicked. So we know it works. So we're going to change that. We want this to target this instance here, and this is called wheel 1. An easy way to kind of find things in Flash is use this little target thing. So we'll do this, and there's the wheel 1. So it's this dot wheel 1. Okay, and what do we want it to do? We want it to play. That's all we're doing. So when it starts, it's already not playing because we told it to stop, but we're going to force it to play whenever we click that button. Let's see what happens now. And now it's playing, and it plays all the way up until the end. It starts over, it reaches frame 1, and on frame 1 it has that stop function. That's why it stops playing itself. So it goes boom, boom, boom. Not bad, huh? Okay, and you can get really creative with this stuff. So we can target number 2. So based on the instance name, whenever we click this button, it targets it. Okay, so we can easily create another button, copy, paste in place, and just move it over. So we're going to make it so that when you click this one, it plays the first one. We're just going to copy this code here. And duplicate it. Okay, so we're going to call this button 2. And we're going to call this function 3. And actually, let's leave this as function 2. We'll change this to number 1. Just to keep things simple. So when button 1 is pressed, it's going to run this code, which is, it tells wheel 1 movie clip to play. When button 2 is clicked, it's going to run this piece of code that tells wheel 2 to play. Now, we have to make sure that we have individual instance names, because right now both of those are called button 1. So we're going to take this one, we're going to call that one button 2. So now it's got its own instance name. We hit Control Enter to look at our movie. When button 1 is pressed, movie 1 is played. When button 2 is pressed, movie 2 is played. Very easy, right? Okay, so that's pretty much going to be all that I'm going to get into as far as coding and targeting things. I just want you to understand the concept, why that's important, the whole instance names, symbols, and movie clips and stuff. We won't be really using button symbols much, or any at all, as in terms of Crazy Talk Animator. This is something that you could probably explore more on your own if you're looking to create your own interactive movies and things inside of Flash. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave them alone. We might be able to come back to that later. We're going to create a third type of symbol. This is going to be a graphic symbol. And once again, I'm going to use my polygonal tool here. And I'm going to change a few settings here for this. I'm going to give it a number of sides. Let's try 8, and maybe change it into a star, just so it'll be a different shape there. Okay, little variety. We'll change the color a bit just to differentiate it a little bit further. And we're going to select it. F8 function key will convert it into a symbol. And we're going to select graphic. Okay, so graphic symbols, they have the same general structure as movie clip symbols, but they are literally treated as static graphics, as static objects. They don't have that dynamic functionality where you can give them instance names and target them and make them do things. And they are usually locked to the primary timeline. So here we're going to create a symbol name. We're going to call it star. Okay, so now we have 3 types of movie clips, 3 types of symbols on the stage. We have movie clip symbols here. They are independent of the timeline. They can be manipulated through code, and they can be targeted, told what to do. They can have multiple instances, and each instance can have its own instance name, which can be used for targeting and creating different things out of them. So now let's take a look at the star symbol here. This one's a graphic symbol. I'm going to right click, select edit in place. So now we're inside of it. I'm going to do a very similar procedure here. I'm going to go into frame 24, which is the 1 second mark. I'm going to insert a keyframe, and by inserting a keyframe rather than a blank keyframe, what it's going to do is it's going to take the contents of that very first or that last keyframe and just copy it over into this new one. So I have 2 keyframes here at frame 1 and at frame 24. They both have this pretty much the same drawing, but they're different shapes technically. So here I'm going to just just kind of manipulate it a little bit, and I'm going to create a Shape Tween, and I'm going to see if Flash does anything. So it recognizes it as being pretty much the same exact shape. So I'm going to have to tweak that second shape a little bit, just so it kind of recognizes it as something different. Let's try that now. Alright, so not really doing much, nothing too impressive. Let's make it a little bit more drastic so we can make it more obvious. I'm going to take this and move it out like that. Yeah, we'll do that. That's nice and drastic. So now we have something that looks like this. Okay, so it's just morphing between the 2 keyframes. And that's cool, right? Because if this was if this was a movie clip symbol, it would literally play that morph over and over until I told it to stop or do otherwise, right? So I'm going to exit out of here by double clicking outside of it. And now I'm going to press Control Enter on my keyboard to go into the preview mode here. Notice what's happening. Nothing, right? That's because this is a static symbol. If this was a movie clip symbol, this would literally be playing over and over unless it didn't have that stop function. I'm going to go ahead and remove that stop function from this. Okay, so here's where that stop code. Let's see here, actions. I'm going to go ahead and remove that stop function. So now there's nothing telling it, okay? Now, because I removed it from here, I mean, remember, these are two instances of the same symbol. So by removing it from there, I also removed it from here. Oops, there we go. So you notice there's nothing there. All right. So no, there's no code on that frame 1 of inside of that movie clip symbol. So because there's no code telling it to stop, it's just going to loop. Now we hit Control Enter, and those two instances are playing over and over and over because there's nothing telling it what to do. It's just playing. That's the basic function of a movie clip symbol. However, this graphic symbol is not playing. The graphic symbol itself is locked to the primary timeline. Even though it has its own timeline containing 24 frames, the primary timeline only has 1. So I'm going to go to frame, let's go to frame 15, right click and insert frame. This is not a keyframe. All this is doing is extending the exposure of whatever the last frame is. So once we do this, you can see that as I scrub left and right on that timeline, I can see my graphic symbol moving, but I can't see my movie clips moving. And that's because, again, the movie clip symbols are independent. The graphic symbol will play because it's frame locked, okay? Frame 1 inside of this movie clip symbol is locked to frame 1 of the main timeline. Frame 10 is locked to frame 10 of the graphic symbol. So wherever we are in the timeline, so now that it has 15 frames, it's playing only the first 15 frames of that symbol because it is locked to that primary timeline. The other movie clip symbols, they play the whole thing because they're independent, okay? And I'm sorry if I sound repetitive, but it's just kind of one of those points that we really have to drive home, you know? So I'm going to go all the way to frame 24, extend it up to there. So now our main timeline has 24 frames. So we can see all 24 frames of that graphic symbol as well. If we click preview, we kind of see what we expect now. Now the other thing about graphic symbols though is that you can actually tell them when to start. For example, on frame 1, if I select it and if I look in the properties panel here, some of the options are loop, play once, or single frame. So even though our primary timeline is composed of 24 frames, I can tell it to only play a single frame. Which frame? It'll be the first one, or how about frame 10? Okay, so we're telling it to play just a single frame at frame 10. Not too bad, right? So here we're going to change it to frame 5. Okay, and if this was something where you had like you know, mouth symbols or different shapes and stuff that you wanted to interact in the view, you can go into the frame picker. It'll show you which frames are available within that graphic symbol, and you can just visually choose which frame you want it to be visible. All right, go Control Enter to preview, and you know, we're seeing the frame that we selected. Even though the timeline itself is playing all 24 frames, that one's independent. It's playing all its own frames. So now here we can, if I have my movie clip and it's, let's make it 3 seconds long. Okay, we want it to loop just once, and we want it to start at frame 15. It'll start with that one. So I started with that one. It is playing over and over, but here we're going to tell it that we want it to loop not loop, we want it just to play one time starting on frame 15. Boom, it did its thing, it stopped. And then when it goes back to frame 1 of the timeline, and then it does its own thing again starting at frame 15, loops one time and then it stops. Or we could just have it loop over and over by selecting loop. We can tell it which frame we want it to start on. Frame 20 for example. And there we have that. So there's different uses for the different types of symbols. Those are the primary functions. Now the other thing about symbols is that symbols can be nested inside of other objects. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new symbol. Okay, I'm going to create that kind of a star here, convert it into a symbol, F8. We're going to select it as a movie clip. We're going to call it star 2. And we're going to go inside of it to do a little bit of editing. Now in here, rather than creating a shape tween, what I want to do is I want to convert that into another symbol. So I'm going to create that F8 function key on my keyboard to turn it into a movie clip symbol. And we're going to call it nested star because it's nested inside of the other star. So here's one. I'm going to go outside of it, and here's the other one. So let's look at our breadcrumbs now. Here's scene 1, which is our main scene. Here's our symbol. We're going to double click to go inside of it. So here's the star 2. If we click that, we can see that that's another symbol here, nested star. Okay. So here I'm going to create an animation on the frame 24 again. Insert keyframe, and I just copied the instance of the same star on frame 24. I'm just going to create a classic tween this time. I'm not going to do too much animation work here, like fancy stuff. I'm just going to use the properties panel. I'm going to tell it to rotate it rotate it clockwise. I could do counterclockwise, but I'm going to do a counterclockwise here. How many times? Just once. So now we have an animation that goes like this. It rotates one time all the way around. Okay, and so far there's nothing special about this. It's just a rotating star. But I can go inside of this star itself, and inside of that star I can double click. Now I'm like 3 levels in. Okay, scene 1, star 2, nested star, and this is our raw shape. Okay, so here, this one, I'm going to create another one, 24 frames. This one, I'm just going to do a shape. Okay, I'm going to insert keyframe. This one is not going to be a symbol. This one's going to be a shape tween. So we're going to right click, insert shape tween, or create shape tween, and we're going to do that on that last frame there. Actually, I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. That way we can have a different type of animation. We'll create a new keyframe there. The middle keyframe is going to be animated like this. Okay, so now we have a shape tween, or like a morph, that does this. Okay, it kind of starts like this, it turns into that, and then it goes back to the original shape. So it looks like that. But because this is a movie clip symbol, if we go outside, now we have something that's doing this. Okay, now we don't see that morph because this is a movie clip symbol, so we don't actually get to preview it inside of the thing. But if we go outside and we just control enter, you can see that it's rotating. So the main symbol itself is doing its rotation animation, and the symbol inside of that symbol is doing the morph. So now you get a combination of that morph and that rotation. All right, and I got this little bit of a error here because it's not finding you know, the stuff that that button is targeting, but that's normal. That's kind of we have code in here that's looking for it. Let's get rid of that. Actions, let's just get rid of that code, that way we don't get those errors. So this is just a movie clip symbol. Inside of it we have other movie clips that are doing their own thing, and inside of that one we have another animation. And you can have all sorts of movie clip symbols nested inside of other movie clip symbols. You can go really deep with these things. So I can go here. Let's do a basic one without animation. I'm just going to move that one to the side. Let's see here, window, library. I'm going to take this square animation. I'm going to go inside of it, and here I have that shape, but alongside that shape I'm going to put this wheel, and that wheel has that animation inside of it. I'll just drop it in there. Okay, and I'm going to go inside of this wheel, and I'm just going to create a new layer. I'm going to drop this star 2 that has that animation in there. Okay, so we go all the way out to the outside, and this is just one symbol now. Inside of this symbol we have this symbol, inside of this symbol we have that symbol, and all together it does that. So I mean, there's all sorts of cool things that you can do with nested symbols, but hopefully this kind of gives you an understanding that when you go inside of a symbol, so right here we're inside of the square symbol, you can place other symbols inside of it. So here we have this instance of this wheel. If I could double click in there, now I'm inside of that wheel, you can see here. And inside of that wheel I have that shape, but I also have this other symbol. And if I go in there, I have this animation. And if I go in there, I have this other animation. So we have all sorts of nested items here. So the path is scene 1, square, wheel, star, nested star. So you can nest symbols inside of other symbols, inside of other symbols, inside of other symbols indefinitely. All sorts of nesting that you can have that takes place. And it's really cool. There's all sorts of functionality that's related to that, probably outside of the scope of this tutorial. F8, let's see here, I'm going to call it tire. Go in there, I'm going to turn that one into a symbol. And let's see here, create classic tween. We're going to make this one spin clockwise. Okay, so we have one movie clip that's just looping. We're going to duplicate that, paste in place. So now we have that. So now we have 2. Now we can create another shape. We're going to turn that into its own symbol, F8. Call it chassis. Okay, and I'm going to put this here. I'm going to press Control up to change the layering there. the depth. So I have those things like this. Okay, so let's say I wanted to animate this itself. Now I could animate all three objects individually. Okay, I have to separate them into different layers and such, or I could take everything that I got selected, convert that into a symbol, call it car. This time I'm going to put the registration point at the bottom. Notice it's right here. And so now I have this one car that's there. I could animate that car. Insert keyframe. Just kind of move it here. So all I'm doing is animating this one symbol, but that symbol has those other two symbols that are animated independently inside. So I'm going to right click, create classic tween, and on my main timeline it just looks like that. That's because movie clip symbols are pretty much independent again. So we're going to control enter and we see what the thing looks like. Okay. So hopefully you're getting a pretty good idea of how to work with symbols, and because this is the primary thing that you will be working with when it comes to creating your own custom characters for Crazy Talk Animator. I'm gonna rewind back here. Let's see here. Remove frames. Remove this tween here. Now let's do something else. Probably not something that you really need to know, but it might come in handy a little bit later. Symbols can have different properties. Okay, so here's this car or truck or whatever it is. I'm going to copy that, paste in place, move it over here, and then paste in place again, move it there, paste in place, and we'll put it there. We have 4 instances of that one symbol. Now this one, I can change its scale property, transformation property, that's the moving it around, the X and Y axes. Rotation, they can have different rotation, and they can even have color information applied. So even though we have different types of instances with different properties, at the end of the day, what you have to keep in mind is that they are instances of the same exact symbol. So any change that I make to any one of these instances will apply to the other instances of that same symbol, because they are in fact the same symbol. Okay, so that pretty much covers everything you really need to know about movie clip symbols at this time. I think we cover a little bit more than we needed to, but hopefully what you've learned in this particular segment you will be able to use as you move on to more advanced things with both Adobe Animate, aka Flash, or Crazy Talk Animator.